Welcome back to Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Today is Tuesday, October 15th. If you are just tuning in, we've just finished going over the massive three-piece of breaking news in the NFL. The two wide receivers traded and the potential quarterback change in Pittsburgh. In this segment, we turn our attention to Rankings Tuesday. That's right, every Tuesday we do NFL Power Rankings and NCAA Top 25. We're going to start off with the Power Rankings, numbers 32 to 17. But before we get into that, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Or if you are on YouTube, you can use that super chat feature. If you do either of those two things, a message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to ask, go ahead and throw that in the comments. Throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate everybody so much for sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Tuesday, October 15th. But like I was saying, getting into the NFL Power Rankings, starting at numbers 32 to 17. And at number 32, for their second time this season, the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jaguars are a team that I thought was making some improvements. They were heading off to London after getting their first win of the season, but now they look just demoralized. And that's the biggest thing that makes them fall to number 31 or number 32. I don't necessarily think that the Jaguars are the worst team in football, but I think they have the worst locker room in football, I'll say. Right? Doug Peterson came on after the game and said they needed to change their culture. But that's his job, right? That's his job to set the culture. They need to fire their head coach. I think that is something that will make a difference for this team. Doug Peterson is not making the difference that he has made the last couple of seasons. He needs to get out of there. They need to bring new life into it. There's a lot of problems with this team. Firstly, the defense, atrocious, awful, always has been, will be for a long time. They don't really have the personnel to run the defensive scheme they're running. That's going to continue to be a problem. Two, as has been an issue with the Jacksonville Jaguars throughout all of Trevor Lawrence's career, it's dropped passes. For whatever reason, maybe he just throws the ball a weird way, but the receivers find a way to drop his passes all the time. There were four, count them, 4 dropped interceptions in the game in London last Sunday that would have kept the Jaguars in the game. Brian Thomas dropped one. Christian Kirk dropped one. Gabe Davis dropped two. These are huge moments in games that would make what we're looking at this team be completely different. That is not to say that Trevor Lawrence is not to blame. In fact, he's number 3. Trevor Lawrence has not played his best football. Trevor Lawrence has made mistakes, lots of mistakes with his decision-making. Number 4, the run game has failed to get going. There are problems on problems on problems with this team. But I think if you fix number 1, which is the culture, which is the head coach, they jump up probably to around 26, 25 area. I think this team is more talented than 32, but they are not playing like it. They are demoralized. At 31, it's the Cleveland Browns. We have talked a lot already on this show about how bad the Cleveland Browns are. They, in my opinion, are the worst team in football, but because, like I explained with the Jaguars, they don't have any of that feeling in their game. They feel demoralized over there. The Jaguars are below them. The Cleveland Browns are not far behind them. And I don't think this is a coaching issue. This is strictly a quarterback issue. Now, they traded away Amari Cooper. This list, full disclosure, was made before that trade happened. So that did not have that taken into account. Still, though, I think I would keep it the same. The Cleveland Browns are a team that is in deep, deep trouble. They need to find a situation quick, and that situation, in my opinion, is putting Jameis Winston in the football game. Excuse me. All right, well, it's not wanting to move on. But number 30 here for you. Just give me 1 second. Number 30 here for you is the Las Vegas Raiders. The Las Vegas Raiders, another team that is having a lot of issues. They've just traded away their star receiver. They're not getting a lot of answers out of their quarterback position right now. Their quarterback position is a little bit of a mess. A lot of bit of a mess, actually, if you ask me. You've had a lot of switches throughout the game, depending on how it is going. You've had a lot of different options at quarterback. Both Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell are not really making that difference that you expect a guy like them to make. They have a solid roster. Max Crosby, a guy that was in contention for Defensive Player of the Year in the preseason, and yet they can't get anything going. The Raiders continue to be an issue. They're down at number 30. At number 29, it is the Panthers. The Carolina Panthers here at number 29. They're just falling back. And I heard some people asking for Bryce Young to come back in. Maybe it's time. Maybe he's learned his lesson on the bench. Andy Dalton, for all that he did in his first couple of starts, coming in and playing solid football, is not seeming to be the answer. That is because this defense, especially, is horrible. Arguably the worst defense in all of football. That was always going to happen with the way that they were playing. But still, lots and lots of issues with this Carolina Panthers team. I don't think they make the change at quarterback. I don't think they're going to do it quite yet, but I wouldn't be shocked if Bryce Young gets a shot at starting yet again later on in this season. At number 28, it's the Tennessee Titans. The Titans, yet again, find a way to lose this game. This was the best game by Will Levis. He barely turned the ball over, which has been the issue over and over and over again with this team. Will Levis played his cleanest football. It still wasn't clean football. He ended up throwing an interception at the end, but he also only threw for about 70 yards in this game. So not the greatest way to play, but again, I've talked a lot about this Titans defense. It's a good Titans defense. The offense is playing better. If Will Levis can put up 200 yards without throwing an interception, they win most of these games. They got screwed over a little bit by some bad calls in this one, by a weird non-call on a pass interference on DeAndre Hopkins, but still, they lose a game. They're not very good. The Titans are down there at 28. At 27, we have the New England Patriots. They are actually our biggest risers of the week. They were at number 32 last week. They are up to number 27 now. Drake May made his debut, and he looked really good. He threw for 243 yards, 3 touchdowns. Yes, 2 interceptions. Yes, a fumble against a solid Texans defense. He had the most passing yards of any quarterback, period, all season against this Texans defense. And that was his first start ever. He had a beautiful deep ball down the sideline for his first touchdown. He really settled in after a little bit of a rough start. He looked really good. There's lots of reasons to be optimistic about your team over there in New England. They're going to continue to get better. I was very, very impressed by Drake May in his first start. At 26, it's the Miami Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins were on a bye. But we got news that Tua will 100% play, which in and of itself is a win for them. Their team without him has been a mess, and if you look at their schedule down the stretch, it is not something that you want to be struggling in. Now, that division is bad. They're currently second in the division, but their last couple weeks of the season for the Miami Dolphins, you get the Packers, the Jets, the Texans, the Niners, the Browns, and the Jets again. Almost all of those teams are in the top 10, or at least the top half of our rankings today. That is not an easy stretch to end your season. If they want to make the playoffs, they need to turn it around now. They need to go on a run now. They cannot lose these games to the Colts, to the Cardinals, to the Bills, to the Rams, to the Raiders, to the Patriots. They cannot lose these next couple of games if they want any shot of making the playoffs. And Tua targeting a comeback week 8 against the Cardinals, he's going to need to be there. They need to show me that they can improve and win a couple games against a better team than the Patriots with Jacoby Brissett under center. The Miami Dolphins are at 26. At 25, it's the New York Giants. The Giants' offense was awful. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. The Giants' offense was awful, but their defense showed a lot. I was very impressed by that defense. Dexter Lawrence, just about as good as anybody in the entire league at his position. Brian Burns had his first real amazing game coming off the edge, this time not opposite of Kayvon Thibodeau. Azeez Ojulari played great defense. That defense is awesome. It really is. I'm very optimistic about that defense. Daniel Jones and that offense, on the other hand, not so much. They, fingers crossed, should get Malik Neighbors back next game, but he's been missing 2 straight games with a concussion. Nothing is certain. Take your time with him this season. Doesn't really matter. Make sure he's fully back healthy. Don't rush him back. The Giants, I think, are the best of the worst, is how I'm going to put it. They're a solid team. They're definitely not a good team. At number 24, it's the Dallas Cowboys. They are our biggest fallers of the week, down 7 spots to number 24. They got lit up by the Lions, and the Lions are a great team, but that is a pattern. When we were breaking down this game, doing our predictions, we said the Lions are the kryptonite for the Cowboys, and oh my God, they were. The Cowboys defense cannot stop the run. The Lions thrive on the run, and they pass off that run. It was a blowout. It was carnage. It was brutal to watch. Jerry Jones is still doing damage control today. He is yelling at his own reporters, his own friends. The Cowboys were embarrassed. They were laughed out of their building, and that is not how you want to look. The Cowboys are on their last leg. They are almost in that bottom tier. The Cowboys, not a good look for them. At 23, it's the Cincinnati Bengals. That defense looked a lot better. Granted, against a bad Giants offense. But that defense was able to slow down a team, which against any team, they weren't able to do against the Panthers. They got their 2 interior offensive linemen back, and I think that made a huge difference. They still weren't able to put together a full game. The offense was shut down when the defense was doing good, and the defense can't do anything when the offense is doing good. I need to see a complete game out of them before I reward them, but there was a lot to like seeing out of these Cincinnati Bengals. Maybe they can find a way to turn their season around. At number 22, it's the New Orleans Saints. The Saints' rookie quarterback, Spencer Rattler, looked really good. He puts up 27 points in the second quarter, an awesome second quarter with almost no weapons. The defense needs some work. They picked off Baker Mayfield 3 times, but they also gave up 51 points. Not gave up 51 points. There was a scoop and score in there, but still, they need to play better. They need to play more together defensively. Lots of issues with this team. They need to play better. The offense looked solid under Spencer Rattler, and I think there's a real reason to think Spencer Rattler might be a better quarterback for this team than Derek Carr, but we'll see. He gets at least 1 more week before Derek Carr is going to be ready. We'll see on Thursday against the Broncos, a good passing defense. At number 21, it is those Pittsburgh Steelers. The Pittsburgh Steelers we talked a lot about, and honestly, I might, again, this list was made before the news broke that the Steelers were benching Justin Fields. I might slide them down a slot, honestly, with that new news. This is not a good move in terms of morale. We talked about it last segment in terms of on-field decision. Again, I could be way off on this, but I just don't understand this move. It doesn't make a lot of sense. They were getting some momentum. They had just blown out the Raiders. Run with it. Don't hold it back. Don't stop it. Just let it play out until it goes bad. Then make that move. Andre asks why they are benching Fields. That's a great question. I have no idea. They're 4-2. They're winning football games with him. He adds an extra element. I really don't understand. But I guess they had said Russell Wilson was the starter. He just wasn't healthy. And now that he's healthy, they're having a competition. I don't understand Mike Tomlin, but he's 17 years in the NFL without a losing season, so I'm not 100% going to question him. I'm just going to tell him I think he's wrong. At number 20, it's those Denver Broncos. The defense lost Pat Surtain. Hopefully he comes back because he was playing defensive player of the year level defense, right? Getting back to the Steelers real quick, Andre says the run game is even better because of his rushing threat. That's exactly what I said in that last segment. You are right on the money there. Adding 2 touchdowns on the ground, you're absolutely right. Does not make any sense to me. But the Broncos at number 20 here, Bo Nix is playing solid football. Burns me to admit that. I don't like Bo Nix, but he's playing good football. They just got spurned by the Chargers. Like I said, whoever takes the lead in that game was going to win, but they did look really good in that second half. A lot to be encouraged to take away from this game. The Broncos are a solid football team, and they're up here at 20, their highest rank of the season. They get a big game against the Saints on Thursday night. Whoever wins that one is going to be in a good position in their divisions. Both of those divisions outside of the top is struggling. The Chiefs, for instance. But it should be a lot of fun to watch. At number 19, it's those Los Angeles Chargers. They had a little bit of an emergency with their head coach. Jim Harbaugh had a little bit of heart palpitations, I think is what he called it, the heart flutters or something. He went out there, continued to coach. They won the game. That was a huge win for them. This was for supremacy, for second place in that division, for potentially a last-second wildcard berth for one of these teams. That was a huge game for the Chargers to prove that they can play with a mediocre team. That was a tough one, though. The way that second half looked is not very convincing. I think both of those teams are on the exact same level. It's going to be a fun battle when they play later. I'm not too convinced about either of those two teams. At number 18 is the Cardinals. I had a lot of Cardinals stock heading into the season. I really did. I got to start selling it off. That defense is disgusting. That defense is awful. They could not stop anything. They couldn't even get anything going offensively, which seems to be a trend with them just about every other game. Not a good look for this team that's supposed to be winning shootouts in the game they win. They can't put up 20 points in a game. They're not going to be anywhere close, as we saw against the Packers, a good Packers team, but still not very encouraging out of the Arizona Cardinals. Finally, for this segment, and we're going to try to get the graphics back next segment. I apologize about that. Maybe the technical difficulties will end. Can't promise anything. But the Colts at number 17. Anthony Richardson is going to be back, and Joe Flacco has won 3 games. Good for him. This season for the Colts is all about Anthony Richardson, seeing if he is the answer, seeing if he can put something together, see if he can be consistent, and we need to see more Anthony Richardson. I think this is a good Colts team. I think their ceiling is 10 wins and a playoff berth. But also their floor, as we've talked about, they're the most bipolar team in the league. They can't stop the run defensively. But their offense can keep up with anybody, theoretically, with Anthony Richardson in the game. They're at 17. We'll see what happens. We're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, we'll finish up our NFL power rankings, then get into the NCAA top 25. Hopefully, we'll have our graphics back. Again, I apologize for the technical difficulties. We see if we'll get those back. But we'll be right back with the final half of the NFL power rankings coming up next here on Sports by GSMC Podcast Network.